Well, welcome back. You're back at the budget hearing as part of our January 3rd meeting of the Cape Cod Commissioners. Right now we have, as part of that, we're going to be reviewing the facilities budget, and John Blaidsdale, who's the head of that department, will be presenting that budget. So with that, John?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, John. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. I would like to apologize for my inappropriate wear. I was up working in the dust and debris up at the House of Corrections, so it's sort of my
health department.
The health department.
Yes, those rocks.
Yes.
No longer the HOC.
Yes, yes. So, I guess I can defer to you guys to start out with anyway, relative to maybe any questions you have on my...
Well, we could start with that, but I think it would be useful if you just made a sort of give us an overview of what your priorities are and things that you absolutely cannot live without, and other things that might have a more, not preferable, but not as important.
Okay. My priorities actually are pretty straightforward this year, unlike some of the other years that we have. The capital that were mentioned here are pretty straightforward in terms of the buildings themselves. It's just a continuation of the like the fire systems over in Deeds, which we didn't get to this last year, and taking care of the various smaller, what I call smaller maintenance issues. The main focus of the department this year is the renovation of the west wing of the House of Correction and the renovation of the gym. And we've been spending our, well, I would say the last part of this year, or this last fiscal year, I mean the last calendar year anyway, working on the west wing and trying to renovate that for the two departments that are going to be going into that west wing. And also working with the engineers, the architects, and the historic district on the gym renovation. And we've been through the gym renovation. We've been through the historic district on the gym renovation. They approved it. So we are now moving forward with the application for the actual building permit, and that's sort of in the process now. And hopefully by the end of this month, our date is February 3rd to have that permit in our hand and be able to move forward from there.
And so which departments are going to be moving there?
Into the west wing?
Into the west wing and the gym?
Well,
what's happening?
the west wing is being renovated. The basement of the west wing is about 2/3 of that, which is, let's say 2,000 feet, is going to be the IT department. And then the balance of that, another 1,000 feet, will be Jack Mead and the Registry of Deeds for storage. And we have taken out the old freezer area and the old meat locker and added on a room which used to be in the old scullery for Jack. And what was the old meat refrigerator is now going to be the new center for the all of the computer equipment, I should say, for the IT department for the county. It's going to be moving from its present position in the gym annex, if you will, into this new big room. So that will be the new hub.
If I may. All right, so we're talking about in the jail.
In the jail, yeah.
We're not talking about the wings on either side.
Yes.
We are. We're talking about the west wing.
The west wing faces towards the gym.
Closer to the gym.
Right.
Has it been looked at? I mean, I keep looking at this, and I know that we're going forward and putting money, and all I can see is that we're going to be putting. This could turn out to be a cash cow. Not a cash cow, a drain eventually, like a never-ending nightmare on this building. Is it better to tear it down and to build something?
Well, in my estimation, no. The reason for that is really multifaceted, but I guess the prime simple ones is it's historic. It would create a huge problem in terms from a public standpoint, possibly, to take that building down. Also, in order to build a new building would be it would be probably fit better in some ways with the county, but right now that building, the total size of that building is 40,000 feet. We're talking right now of utilizing a small portion of that, and for our sort of our immediate purposes, it makes sense to utilize what's there. The infrastructure is there, the heat, the water, the sewer, everything is there, it works. We've spent money on upgrading the system in terms of its, not in terms of the boilers, which are fine, but it's in terms of how the heating system works to make it more efficient. And in the short run, until the county really decides which direction they want to go, and facing a big nut in terms of tearing that building down and rebuilding a new one, I think this makes sense in what we're doing. We're not spending a ton of money.
Okay, now isn't the back wall, I mean the brick side of this that's in the back, isn't that sort of like being shored up? Isn't there, that's not ready to...
You're going off old information. It used to be, that was one of the brick walls that was, even when the jail was in there, was collapsing, but they fixed it. So
They fixed it.
yeah, that was all fixed.
Because I was thinking, if you did, even if you did take it down, and you used the same materials to sort of rebuild, and you could, you'd have some of that historic quality, if you did it within that. And, I keep going back to this building, this blue ribbon, I mean, our clerk of court, Nickerson, Scott. I was going to call him Sean Nickerson. I was wrong. Scott Nickerson had brought in that everybody's jockeying around, and I do know that we're going to be putting the health department outside from the basement up there. So this is going to be opening up space for the courts here. But I still think that if we really looked at, the village is revitalizing itself. We have an opportunity to have departments come together and even still rent space, and then gain that rent from the state, whatever we can pass off from what we're using here. It just would make. Are we going to be putting really good money before?
Well, we did look at all this, Sheila. We looked at tearing down that building years and years ago and building a new 40,000 square foot building up there.
Right.
Getting out of all of the court buildings, and there's a problem with that because the problem is the state's not going to take them. And what you don't want to be is, you don't want the state to be your tenant where you're responsible for the building. That's a bad situation to be in. But the problem is affordability. We can't afford to do that right now. We just don't have. We don't have the capital capacity to do that.
We can't go for bonding.
Well, you can bond it, but you have to pay the bonds, and that's part of the problem. We just don't have the capital capacity to do. And now, I would say, John, if you're talking about building a 20,000 square foot building, what's the minimum per square foot cost? I would say 200, but I may be low.
Yeah, you're probably right. Within 200 to 250. The problem we have is because we're municipal. Every time you turn around, we're paying prevailing wage.
Yeah.
And the other issue
Also
is
decam.
And decamp.
Well,
now
the
that's
other
up
issue
to
was
the
really
issue
the town of Barnstable. They had other ideas about us.
If they wanted us to move down to
downtown.
Right.
But you can't make those numbers work either because here you own the property. You don't have that acquisition cost.
Right. Yeah, and it's none of it to dictate. Besides a revitalization here, it benefits part of the town of Barnstable.
I think that part of this might be answered more directly when we have the update of the building assessment process that we talked about,
Right.
which I believe is on our agenda for February.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I would argue Scott's concern is with this building, not with anything else.
I understand
And,
that.
that's his concern is the Sally Port and the holding areas. That's really his
The
concern.
holding areas, I mean, there's the upstairs, look, and I've had the judges bring me through here, they don't have
Right.
places to be, to be questioning attorney-client privilege, there's no privacy, these types of things. So, I mean, I'm just thinking down the road, if we do want to look at a comprehensive look, it's still not too late, maybe.
No, it isn't. And I think what we're doing, and
Because I just would hate to see opportunities go by,
Right,
as they have in the past.
And I agree. Interesting enough, through this process with the gym, we have been, and I've been approached by a variety of different people within the village as to, well, what's going on? What's going on? I mean, people have had, they hear rumors. Well, we're going to put a 3-story building on top of what's up there,
Right.
And the guy behind, who owns the property behind, is trying to sell the $1 million houses. He's very concerned about we do anything down here to create a problem.
The business about putting the homeless wet shelter up there?
Yeah, well, whatever they're doing, he's trying to sell his $1 million houses.
I think you're talking about across the tracks.
I'm talking about across the
At the
tracks.
time, it's
Right.
public property for public use. Anybody
Right.
buying $1 million home has to think twice about it.
Well, they do, but
Is
then
anything
again,
gonna
we've had
happen?
experience where we've been here and people have come in afterwards and they have taken us to court on a variety of different issues, noise being one of them. I mean, as we know, we live
Which
in a
was
very
disturbing in
litigious
that that was a
society.
member of the county.
Well,
at
that's
the
true.
time. Yeah,
That's
right.
true. I mean, there's nothing to prevent them from creating a problem. I think what we're doing is working within the four walls that we have. We have the ability, my department has the ability in conjunction with subcontractors to renovate at a relatively reasonable expense, I should say, because we're not paying prevailing wage, obviously, for our people, to go in and do this renovation. It allows the county time to then look at a major change or a major building or something. If we were looking at a Charlestown jail renovation, well, that's a different animal. And as Bill said, we get into DCAM, you get into more, it
Right.
changes the whole game, if you will.
The experience
Well-
I had in building housing, for example, down in Harwich, was a building that I could have, we could have put together for a group home. We could have built for about $400,000, but by the time we got done, it was $1.2 million
Right.
because of meeting the requirements that were put on to us by DCAM, by the
Right.
state.
Well, I still go back to, calling in, we have a planning board that we should call people in and to take a look at what could be done, what can be done. Not just, I'm not saying to oversee you, but, I think they have very good advice as far as looking at these things. They have a historic person there, they have the planning people there.
Yeah, this isn't a
And-
permanent solution.
Right.
I don't think we
And it would
envision
be-
it as that.
right.
I think 10 years from now, within a 10-year window, you have to figure out what you want to do with that
Yeah,
building.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I'd like to be able to
Yeah.
be thinking of that now so that we're not throwing,
Perhaps
like,
that-
oh God, if we had
that should
only
be
been thinking
direction
about
we
that,
go.
we wouldn't have spent that $1 million.
Well,
You
you're not
should
gonna-
give that direction to this committee that when we discuss this.
Yes, well, I did ask for it at the last meeting that we put together,
Yeah.
that committee.
And I think
with-
it's on the agenda for February. So
Okay.
that might be an appropriate time to focus
Okay,
on that.
I
We'll have to have
I
an
just
audit.
always ask, John.
Well, I think it's good to ask these questions, and I think when we look at what we're doing with if you take the West Wing represents about 6,000 feet. We're working with a budget, total budget, if you will, and we move some funds over from First District, from up the hill at BCI, the tower building. And I would say we're going to be able to convert this 6,000 feet for under $100,000 by the time we get through. Now, the biggest nut is putting some heat up on the main floor through the attic, and the prices I've been getting so far on that run about $30,000, $35,000. If you're taking 6,000 feet and you're getting it for $100,000 for a period of time, as Mark says, that's still pretty good dollars. And again, it's because we have the infrastructure there. We're not going out and doing anything in terms of that. The gym, on the other hand, is obviously we're working with a much bigger budget. We're doing different things to totally renovate that. And that, a lot of the infrastructure that's going to be required for that is in preparation for whatever happens with the building up the hill. In other words, the water main we have to put in for the sprinkler systems. We've got to put a 12-inch main running across the entire top of the hill, because none of our buildings have sprinkler systems. And anytime you decide to change a major thing in a building, you're going to be
Right.
required to put sprinklers in. We didn't have the water. We're working towards putting in that water. It's part of the projects that we have to do in conjunction with the gym. But it seemed, under the situation where we had departments that are tight, you have the space there, we're looking at, at what can we do with it, give them
Right.
some breathing room and go from there.
When you spoke about the heating system, okay, and you're talking about a temporary use of the building, you can reduce your investment in the equipment by using, let's see, not expanding the four-star water system that's up there. I think it's four-star, it's not steam.
It's steam.
Is it steam?
It's steam.
Okay. Not expanding the steam system, but just putting in some type of a resistance, a system with perhaps some type of, let's say, a water storage tank in order to reduce your investment in the equipment if you're not planning to use it for, for an extended period of time. Because once you invest in an extension of the steam system, that's a significant investment in terms of, let's say, in terms of
Well,
replacement.
yeah, it is, Bill. What we've done is the system that we found when we went up there from the sheriff, the boiler was in fine shape. It'll heat the entire building. There's two boilers, actually. The steam system that's there, I mean, the boiler puts out steam, out runs into the system. What we found was that all the old traps and everything were plugged. They were never taken care of. They were never managed or maintained. There was no control of the system. So this is when the sheriff was there. They were,
Okay,
they
but a
were
steam
very...
trap just has a valve and a seam in it. It could be
Exactly.
easily
So
replaced.
we bought all new traps. We put all new traps in for the main
Not new
portion
traps,
of the
new
building.
valves and seats.
Well, we put in new valves, we put in new seats, we put in new traps, we put in all of the system to bring it up and control, so we can now control the system.
Okay.
Did you talk to Cape Light Contact? You went with
It's all through
John,
it's all through
right?
with Cape Light on this as far from an engineering standpoint. Then on the west wing, we just turned on put the system back together, turned on the steam and the heat in the west wing. And again, it's a matter of traps. And when you're looking at that and you have in-house ability to take care of that, the traps themselves are pretty inexpensive.
Oh, yeah.
So you're doing that. We now have heat in that section of the building. What I'm talking about in terms of the new system for the attic area for the main floor is for AC. We have to put AC in, and then through the AC of the system, a heat exchanger in the attic, which we'll be putting in.
Yeah.
And then in the main floor, in the basement level, we'll be putting in heat pumps like we have here. It's the the splits in the ductless systems. Those are going in as for AC. So we have heat already there. We're putting in AC, and you buy those at $1,500 a pop or $2,000 a pop, and you're putting in, and now you have a space that's totally air conditioned and controlled. Again, it's a Band-Aid approach, but it's an approach that will allow the county to have that space, utilize it, and to give us time to make decisions whether or not you want to go into the big nut of taking the building down and dealing with the people from there. So that's been our focus on over this last, pretty much the last 6 months, since we took the jail over, and to bring it up to speed, renovate it, get it set up. We're doing the same thing with the West Wing now. And theoretically, I say theoretically because you never know what happens, but the IT department should be able to move up at the end of this month and get in there, which of course frees up space over here. And the main floor is being divided with one wall on that main West Wing for a large conference room, classroom. The IT and the health department are working on to have that, so you'll be able to go up, but it's a 1,000 square foot room. So it will be able to give us a smart room from what they're telling me. And they'll have the boards and whatever you want up there, so you'll be able to meet there. It's ADA it's ADA compatible.
Where is it?
Because of
we
the
gotta
main.
think about meeting up there.
So we could have it's going to be it's going to have one of the best views in the county.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Got a good view.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's a huge room they're putting as a
Karen's
1,000.
got the best view in the county.
Karen, this is going to be close to Karen's, view-wise. Yeah, it's
There's a cell
1,000
that
too.
has a pretty good view.
Yeah.
One of the old cells
The old cells, yeah.
in the corner.
Yeah, this is one of the best ones. I couldn't get Karen to go in there, though.
No, not.
On the rest of that, there's 1,400 feet left on that west wing, which will be vacant. if
Is
you
there
will.
any storage in there at all?
The storage,
No?
no,
Okay,
not,
people
everybody's
use it, yeah.
taking that up. The storage will probably end up being part of the bottom of the east wing if we end up putting something down there. But there'll be 1,400 feet left on that west wing. And we're working on a design to get a door in, put 2 bathrooms in, take out the 12 that were there and put in 2. And that'll be a room that will be a big room in there for not more, again, more overflow.
Yeah, as we think about storage area and allocation, I think you also have to think about retrieval, of information, dead storage. You could go to Iron Mountain cheaper than using space that we have in a complex that could be used by active agencies and active departments.
Right.
I think that's something that's...
Well, one of the things that we're doing with with Jack Mead's area, he's putting in the rolling files, and those funds, in fact, the funds that are being utilized for this whole area of the West Wing are coming from the state through Jack, and they have an ability for with their computer.
He's got that capital fund.
He's got that
There's a
capital
separate
fund,
fee
right.
that they.
Right, and some funds that he had, and they are paying for their portion. So ultimately, this is, it sort of adds to the pot, and
Yes,
sort of
it
saves
does.
us
Right,
a
no,
few
you
dollars
can't.
along the way.
Right, we could do that. And also, if we were thinking of doing a conference room, or with a room that size, you could be thinking that you could even have the Assembly of Delegates hearings there. If you wanted to put in one of those smart boards, because people have there's a lot of presentations now, and to be putting them on a wall, these are things that, in the end, enhance our ability.
That's what he was. That's what George was talking about.
We're
We had
talking
an
one or
RABC
two. That's all
meeting.
kinds of
That's right.
things
We
that
need
we're putting
these
in the
types of
training.
things.
And I think that I wouldn't be, I think it's an appropriate thing for us to think about as far as where we meet.
Right.
How big is the assembly
Yeah.
meeting room now?
That'd be nice.
I
Yeah,
don't
how much
know,
would it
Mark. I'd
cost to
have to
renovate this
measure.
room?
Is
Take out those
this
cells
bigger
and
than
pop-
that?
Yeah.
I think it is
Put us
bigger.
up there.
Plus the layout's
The
probably.
layout will be better. It does have poles, but it'll be laid out better. So I think it will work. And you're certainly welcome to come up and take a look. We have cleaned it up considerably from the time you folks have been up there last.
Right.
Yeah, it's been
And so on
months.
from there.
Couple months. Well, we were there.
We were there with,
just
we were
there
just
a
looking
couple
at
weeks
the
ago.
Waldo's area.
Actually,
Yeah, but
last month.
you didn't walk into the
No,
west
we
wing or
didn't
walk
downstairs.
down.
You just stayed up.
Yes, well, that was
Okay, well,
good.
why don't
Right.
we make it so, why don't we,
Do that
what
in
we plan on,
January.
before the end of January, why don't we plan to take a walk up there?
Yeah, or as soon as we can after we get budget review
Right.
done.
Right.
And my question, with Jack Mead's storage
Mm-hmm.
requirements, do they require certain atmospheric conditions?
So we're
So
putting in
be able to do that?
two splits in there. We have heat, and we're going to put in heat pumps in there, which Jack is going to pay for. And then that
What kind of a
will,
plenum for the heat pumps, is it going to be air?
yeah. So they'll go in, and that'll be totally climate controlled to meet what they need, and then they have another additional storage space, which used to be the old scullery. Again, you'll see a big difference when you go up there.
If you're using an interior space with a plenum, you could do an exhaust that would basically reduce increase the energy part of it, so that if you had the, if you were drawing, the differential for the plenum and then just sort of exhausting into the same space, that might be an answer to the heating system for that, and also the air conditioning. For it, we just reverse it.
Well, we're doing a variety of things, working with a light compact on that, and the engineers there. I'm in the process now, waiting for the engineers to get back to me on the upstairs, and doing it in the attic space to put in for that system, which will be two not heat pumps, but air controls to go through, air handlers, in other words, to drop down the air and give us the heat and the AC that we need in that room, figuring with all the windows.
Yeah.
And the windows is something that I put in here that we're going to have to look at in order to change. And even at the cost of the windows, let's say it's $150,000 for the cost for those windows, the heat you're going to save, the energy you're going to save is going to be considerably, over the period of time, it's going to be well worth it.
To me, it's the amount of time that it takes to recover that investment. Saving $1,000 a year on a $150,000 investment doesn't really make a lot of sense. But if you're saving $30,000 a year, and you're seeing a 5-year recovery period, on that investment, it begins to make some sense.
Oh, it does. I agree.
Because I think there's a lot of hand waving about, okay, we're going to save money on it. Yeah, but are you saving enough money to offset the cost of investing in the equipment?
I'm with you 100% on that.
Okay, right.
You do need to look at that, and also taking in the concerns that folks have relative to the conservation and all the rest of that. But so that going back to our first question, we have been spending, I would say, 80% of our time up there bringing the systems up to date, bringing them, where they work more efficiently, and doing the additions, as well as trying to maintain what's going on in the rest of the buildings in case something falls apart. But,
I have a couple of questions. What's the story with the White House? Is that still, it's still there? Is it still being used, or how is it being used?
the RDO's in there.
What?
The,
Oh,
Barnstable-
RDO is in the
In the
way.
White
Yes.
House up here?
Yeah, that's the idea.
The old sheriff's,
The old sheriff's.
they used to be
yeah.
the sheriff's,
AmeriCorps and RDO are in there.
Oh, how come I didn't know that?
That's the way that's the way we like it to be. If you don't know it's there, then it's not a problem. Everything is working fine.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
see,
why it's good to know it's
I
there.
remember it back in the days when when the sheriff had parties at it.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
when it was really
Both
White
Sheriff
House.
Bose.
But yes,
Yeah, and
right.
DeMello.
And
Right.
DeMello,
Yeah.
right.
Yes.
But then DeMello had a child, and because of the lead paint, they had to get out.
Get out. Yes, that's right.
Is
So,
it lead
Okay.
paint still in there?
no,
I knew.
they took out from the part halfway up the wall. And took
Before
that
we
out.
get to the capital part and the new initiatives part, when you get to the bottom line of your budget, you know,
Just
that
about
page,
too.
Yep.
why is that number on the right, which would seem to be 2012, almost like $1.5 million less than 2011?
Probably because I haven't added in three things. The salaries yet,
yeah.
which are not in here on this particular page, the retirement piece, and the health insurance piece.
Oh, okay.
Retirement, we know, is going to be about a 6% increase.
Right.
Health insurance, we don't know yet. I think in my calculations, I'm using 10%, and hopefully it will be less than that. And salaries are probably, most of your employees are probably at the
They're at the
max.
max, yeah.
So it's really not that much different. There's only a few people who are probably getting a step.
Very, very few
Very few.
Very few.
Most people are at their max.
at the max. When I do my budget, I don't deal with those items, so I don't.
Right.
I know that,
Nobody
but I
does,
just,
yeah.
just
That's
looking
why.
at the bottom number.
So those are the three big numbers that are.
So your new initiatives, can
Yes.
we talk about those?
Yeah.
You have a maintenance position, any maintenance position?
Right. I have been here, it's hard to believe, but almost 19 years.
Wow.
thank you for your service.
Long time. I never would have thought that, believe me. And my department has not changed in terms of bodies since then. I take it back. I think I have a half of a
No, I think
custodian.
you got one new one.
Custodian.
Yeah.
Since then, since I've been here, we have picked up considerably more buildings, considerably, well, if you just take the house, St. Cove, which we did out there, we have the rest area we do, and we are picking up buildings within buildings, if you will. We're also doing more with the Cape Cod Commission. My problem is, and now we're picking up the gym, and we're doing, not only are we managing the project, we're also in the process of we work within it. And anything we can save, if I can have my people do it, we do it. We're doing as within the West Wing. We're also trying to take care of everything else that we had before. And when you, as Mark had said, in terms of dollar-wise, we're at the top scale. That's great in terms of you know where you're going. It's not so great when it comes down to having the body here, because that means they've got a lot of vacation time. And as it turns out, I have approximately, during the day, I have 6 people that handle everything. That's on the payroll, that is. 6 people who take care of all the maintenance, all the construction. We're doing more construction, handling all of the issues that come up within all the buildings, as well as Orleans, and that 6 is also in Orleans. What happens is, in real terms, it comes down to about 3.5 bodies per day to take care of everything that goes on here. And we save the county a ton of money by doing the construction part, like at the jail and so on, versus paying prevailing wage. And I'm not pushing prevailing wage per se, but it's a reality. I have to deal with it. And when you're paying $42 an hour for a laborer, it just to pick up stuff to go from here to here, it's grinding, I guess. You know, when you're trying to save money and trying to do the best you can with what you have. The maintenance position is also, as you'll see here, is half funded by the state. Same as the custodial positions. We have, and again, going back to my initial point, in the 19 years that I've been here, as far as the maintenance position, it's never changed. We stayed the same. In addition, if you take just some of the departments and what we have to deal with, the Cape Light Compact, for example, wasn't here. The IT department wasn't here. The Cove was not here. I mean, those departments have just come since I've been here. I'm sure there are others, and I have no idea, sitting here, how many state people or departments. I know Juvenile came in, a total separate department that we have to deal with within the bodies of the buildings. We reached saturation point. We're starting to fall behind in terms of what we can provide for the county, and we can save a lot of money with what we're doing, but if we're working up the hill, we're not doing something down here necessarily. We changed a lot of the walls over, for example, over in Deeds this past spring, or past fall rather. We redid a whole area for Jack over there, put in a lounge, took out a room, put in 2 offices. This is all built within the area that we build within house. If you had to go out, you're going to pay a lot more money for that. But it takes away from some of the other things. Not that I'm complaining about it. We're happy to do it. I feel that's what our department should be doing, both maintenance and construction. But I've reached saturation point. I just can't, with everything coming on, particularly with the gym and what's going on up the hill. You know, we're running out of people.
Okay, well, I hear that, and I think that, you know, we've had this conversation, you know, over time, and I want to, in speaking for myself, that we always get kudos for the appearance of the buildings, and your staff is to be congratulated for that. I'd also give you kudos for being able to manage with what we have to get what we need done. But I think at this particular time, I think you know that the revenue that we enjoyed in the past is greater than what we enjoy at present. So it's kind of difficult, although we might personally be sympathetic to supporting the idea of, let's say, more help. I don't think that we have, in my opinion, the ability to easily look at that without you sacrificing something else within that budget. What would you give up in order to get a person?
Well,
I'll answer that for John. I don't think there's a whole lot of wiggle room in his budget.
Well, I think people need to hear that.
Well, I agree with you, Bill, and to tell you the truth, on one of these positions, and probably the maintenance position, I agree with John. I have to say, in this particular sense, I do. Now he's absolutely right, and I think we did add a janitorial position a few years ago because we had expanded to the Cove and to the White House and to maybe the public safety building at that time, whatever was out there. Oh, the farmhouse. That was there.
The farm was another one. Yeah.
So now we've expanded into the into the old jail facility. So I don't disagree with him on that sense. That I think he's done a good job, kind of with the pieces that he's had and been make do. But I agree. Then now the problem is how to pay for what we think is the need, and that's going to be a problem. And John, as you know, we've already gotten the word from Chris McQuaid that says, don't do anything more for us because we can't pay for it. So.
Well, that's true, and I realize that came down.
Yeah.
This is the state.
Yeah, that's what we talked about earlier.
Yeah, they want us to hold off on doing anything on the buildings because they pay for that when it's in their areas. Part of the thing that we look at, if you take, and I don't want to pick at any department because they do whatever they're doing for the county and it's determined by you, but when we look at a department like the IT department, we're moving up there. I'm being told now they're going to be expanding to 7 people. If he expands to 7 people, that's more people than I've got. Now, I don't care about the numbers per se, but we're adding people on. The departments have been adding people on. My problem is I just can't keep up with it. When any department around here adds on, it affects my department.
If I may, I agree with you, and I think that for a very long time the county has worked really almost on a skeleton budget. I mean, not only you, I think we could use an administrative assistant. This week, Kara was out. People were calling about there were things on they couldn't be changed easily that were on the website. I mean, just being able to answer a phone. I've called here many times and not been able to get someone trying to get some information. So I think that as we're trying to expand and we're looking at our reorganization of ourselves as a county to be responsive to the 21st century, of the needs that are coming up, we have to be able to have that staff, not just be, the public thinks every municipal person's getting a big deal here. We know that that's not true. I wish we were in corporate America, then it would be true. But that is, I think that we have to really take a hard look, and you are taking on more and more, and it's just not humanly possible. And to look at where our budget is, and if we don't have that money in here, we have to look at ways of how can we get this? There's got to be some sort of ways we can figure out revenue streams, or.
I think that you made your point, but there's nothing, there's not much we can do about it, at this point. I think that we have to get some advice from Mark as to what is possible
right, we're
based
just
upon
reviewing
available
right
money.
now.
Do you have any other questions, John, or do you have anything?
I'd like to add one thing. If I have to choose between the two,
Between the two.
these two
Oh, the
positions,
positions.
the priority is the maintenance position.
Okay.
Because those are the people that keep the buildings operating.
I think that's important here.
Can I ask one other question? What if we did any renovation to the building? Is it easier for the state to pay a higher rent to sort of recoup those costs? They have to pay for whatever it is that we're doing in here.
Well, that's what Chris McQuaid, who's the legal representative for the administrative office of the trial court, basically has put us on notice. I have to say, over the past, even since I've been here, back to '94, and that's almost the total time John's been here, the state's been very good in terms of reimbursing us our costs. The wild card has been, sometimes it's been paid, sometimes it hasn't been paid, is the administrative charge that we've submitted to them. Last year, this year, they approved it. For, I think that was the 2009 court costs. And that was a surprise because the state really didn't have a lot of money. So, but this year, as we talked about earlier, Chris has put everybody on notice that for 2012, they're not going to have that money. It's not going to be there. Don't be, changing walls and painting offices and doing all this stuff that you're going to charge back to the state because we're not going to be able to pay it. So that's been the issue. Is,
and yet we are public buildings, and we want it to look inviting and good. So I'm just figuring out, is there another way to come at them without giving them a big bill? It's sort of like a monthly increase.
The answer is no.
Right.
No, I don't think so. Yeah.
I think it's worth asking and thinking about it. Instead of just saying this is the way it's done, and we can't do it any other way.
Believe me, between these two guys, over the time that I've been observing, if there were a nickel that was floating to the ground that we had a chance to reach out to get, I'm sure that we would have gotten it. But your point's well taken. But I think we have to move on. What else do you?
I agree. We're sympathetic to the maintenance position.
All right. On the other capital improvements, the window replacements we only touched on briefly.
Which building?
This is the House of Correction.
Not these windows.
No.
Yeah, the new.
These windows we've been working on in-house, trying to re-glaze them, reset them up, and go to take care of that. And over the last couple of years, we've been able to do that. Our energy has gone from here to there over recently, and that's one of the things that falls off the thing. But no, I'm talking about the windows up the hill.
Do we need operable glass up there?
You need some glass up there. There's no problem. Even a piece.
Yes, what I was
glass
talking
means,
about.
if you're talking about putting air conditioning in, one of the things that you do in buildings is that instead of having windows that open, you close everything off. You could do it with plexiglass or something like that. And you're using the artificial ventilation system as part of your air conditioning system in order to operate the building. Right. Now, so the question comes up in the wintertime or in the summertime, you put in some type of a plexiglass on the inside part of the window. I think you know what I'm talking about. That basically, seals the window off in terms of heat exchange because you're operating on an artificial system.
So, well, the answer to your question is the windows that I propose to put up there, are working on, are operable. They have to be made because they're a specific size. They would be awning type, stationary, and a little window that opens. It does two things for us. First of all, it will make the historic folks very happy because it'll follow the same general line of what's there today, which makes it easier for us versus a solid plate of glass. Second of all, the state, like with all our buildings, because they're old, they recognize the fact that to have them totally climate controlled is not realistic, nor is it efficient. Because you would if you have a total climate controlled, you have to transfer somewhere in the order of magnitude of 50% of your air, or outside air has to come in. You have to transfer this all the time. In older buildings like the deeds next door, when we've had OSHA come in and go through the testing of the air and so on, the answer has always been the same. When we're a little bit low, open a window. The window is there, open it. So taking that as a lead, we say, okay, it makes sense historic-wise. It makes sense that if people will open the windows. And ironically enough, we have a climate-controlled heat pumps upstairs here in this building in the jury rooms. And we seal the windows. He says, okay, well now you're totally controlled. You don't have to open the windows. We seal the windows. Well, the court officers go in and they peel the seals off, take the screws out, open the damn windows. And if you go up there now, you look out and you see a screen open on one of them up here now. It's very frustrating from my standpoint, but it's people. They want to have open air. Even though they're comfortable, they want to open the windows. So to answer your question, though, I was looking at operable windows, albeit small, but then they could open them, and during the shoulder months is when you really get the problem. It's not so much.
If you framed a window on the inside of these historic windows, in other words, had the external appearance, but we're using, using an inside window and essentially to access this fresh air, that might, to me, that would address the appearance issue, because you could take the paint, you could take the glass out of the frame of those windows and just use some epoxy to seal them off.
We looked at that, and the issue when, and not to belabor the point, but the windows that are there, they're about this. The glass is about this big with a piece of bar about that big going on. Remember, it was a house of correction, it was a jail, and it has cross wire in it, so a chicken wire, if you will, in the glass. What we're proposing is cutting all that out, putting in a new window. Now, when you look into new windows today, cost-wise, you're just putting in thermopane windows, which meets all the codes from the standpoint of energy efficiency, and they open up. It makes sense. Dollar-wise, it doesn't make sense necessarily to leave those windows there and put in the plexiglass, which we've considered on the inside, because of what you're looking at is not. I mean, they're old, they're falling apart. They've been there since the 30s. I mean, it's time for a change. So that's what we're looking at. The cost is estimated at $150,000 for the sections of the building that we're going into.
How many windows?
You're looking at probably the better part of 50 or 60 windows.
Say 60, 150.
I mean, I had a price for windows for the main section, not the west wing, but the main section of $35,000 for the window. That's to buy the windows. And again, they're being made, so you buy the windows, which isn't too bad. Where I ran into my problem was I had one quote. The guy came in and said he wanted he would charge 4 times the amount of the cost of the window to put them in, which is unacceptable. I mean, we'll work our way down from there. But when you're looking at numbers to figure out where you are to make sure you cover yourself, you have to get an idea of what we're looking at. What we're looking at is about 150. Do I think we can get into that? Yeah, I do. But I have to be realistic and put it in here. If we have the money left over, it'll still be sitting there.
And that includes installation?
Yes.
Yeah, I just had to put in some windows at my house, replacement windows, and I think it worked out to be about 2.5 times. The labor was 2.5 times. Yeah,
the guy next door said 3 times for residential, 4 times for commercial. Now remember, we're up here. We got steel windows we got to deal with, and we're cutting it. The way we had it designed up was we would just cut the bars, not get into the block at all, and to put that in there. So we were going there. So anyway, that was 150 in there. Paving around the building itself in some of the areas that are dirt was $35,000. The new water main. We already have existing money. I think it's in the order of 170-odd thousand or something. I'd have to look at that number. We need to increase that. This is for the 12-inch water main. And it's a very expensive project. The county is facing a decision. We have to have the sprinkler system for the gym. When we designed up this system and looked at this, the requirements for the volume of water requires a 12-inch main that runs from Railroad Ave to basically the firehouse or 6A.
Well, we talked about this before. You were talking about some sort of storage up there that, to offset the pressure requirement.
Well, the storage is in the pipe, 12 inches. The main coming down Railroad Ave is only a 10-inch line or an 8-inch line.
Okay, so you're not relying upon any storage up at the top of the hills to offset the town water pressure?
No. What they have is what the engineers said we had to have was a 12-inch main, and that it's the size of the main for the volume of the water that you need for your sprinkler systems. This system that we've designed up gives us taps for every building the county has, deeds right up through all the way around, with the exception of this building, going all the way around. So as whatever changes downstream, if you tear the House of Correction down and build a new building, you're going to need sprinkler system. We have a tap for that. It'll already be there, ready to go in. Same with all the other buildings, First District and whatever. Ultimately, it's going to happen. They're going to require us to do it because.
But if you only have an 8-inch main on Railroad Ave and you put in a 12-inch, aren't you going to have a pressure problem?
Yes, you will, but when you think of a sprinkler system, it's charged and it's set up. You get a fire in this little area. You've got plenty of water within the system, within that volume. If the head goes off, it shoots down, and it's only going to shoot down for any kind of pressure for over a small period of time. Put the fire out. It's not designed to put the fire out in total, if you will. You're still going to have to bring the fire department in. In addition to this line, we're putting in 3 or 4 fire hydrants, which have to go in around, and that's where they will take care of that. But the volume is coming from the pressure in the system and that 12-inch main.
Okay.
Okay.
What else?
Let's see. The registry fire alarm system. What we did last year, we had money within the system, within in-house, if you will, for the fire alarms. The cost of it, we had them for each building. The cost was higher, so we combined up all the funds that we had. We took care of First District and we took care of this building. And so now what I'm requesting is $30,000, which will do deeds. And it's the money that we took away, basically, and there's some fund. I think we wiped out that total fund for both of these buildings. So that's what that request is. Same with Second District. We pulled money out of Second District to put it in here. So those are the main capitals, if you will.
Okay. At this point, do you have any questions?
We have money in reserves for capital. Don't we have it for the gym that you put aside?
Yeah, for building
So a lot of
construction.
this is in some. Do we have some money in a pot?
No, this is all in addition.
This is all in
This is all in
addition.
addition.
Okay. All right, just wondering.
Um,
How much will it cost to do this room, Sean? Not great. This room. Yeah.
No, we're gonna move up-
Can we get a little
we're gonna move up
decorator in here?
No, we're moving up the hill.
Yeah, I know.
You're going to like that
Yeah,
little
with a
room.
scenic view. We need a truck.
Well, no, actually, we're gonna have Feng Shui up there, I thought. I was gonna go back to the BAC and see if any of my little friends would be willing to give us some tips on interior design.
Yeah, I think, definitely.
How about the paving the farm road?
Oh, that's right. The
Yeah, that's on the.
farm road.
We got money this year.
Yeah, we have money in that. That's one of the projects for this year. And it sort of slipped a little bit on the horizon.
Haven't heard anything about it, so it's been all right?
It's been all right.
Yeah.
We put stone in again this fall.
$30.
Seems to work fine. And at the moment, if that's where we're putting heavier stone in than we used to do, or that the sheriff did, Tim seems to be happy out there.
It's a good thing, too, because when the sheriff was up there, I think I lost a spring on my car going through there once. And now that you put that stone in there, when I go down there to buy the potatoes,
Yeah, there you go.
it's a lot easier to get in and out of there.
It's a lot easier now because we're using bigger stone. The biggest problem we have if we pave it is where do you run the water? And the water will end up in the field, or unless you put pits, which is part of the cost that we were trying to figure out,
Right.
to run the water into the pits and then the flow.
What about putting French drain?
Well, you got to run the water somewhere.
Not that clear, but-
And everything runs down the hill into his field. which of course is where you don't want to have the first flush on any drain.
Well, working with them, this is, is this stormwater relief?
Yes.
Okay. How toxic is the stormwater that he's dealing with as far as using it as an irrigation source?
I don't think you can.
You don't
It's
think
an
you can?
organic farm.
It's an organic farm. I don't
Yeah.
think the first flush is terrible.
I know.
And we would have to put in, we were talking about putting pits in there, then as the pits filled up with water, they would eventually roll over and go into a drain of some kind. The problem is that the land out there is clay. And it's
Seldom found on Cape Cod, except there, huh?
You got it. And with his organic farming and everything else running into it, we've been trying to stay away from it. And frankly, if the stone works, I'd rather keep putting stone on it. And just, and kind
Can't put a
of,
retention basin anywhere?
well, we can, and that's part of what our, part of looking at. The retention basin would be down below, and we were talking about maybe we can put it in around his field, but, it takes away from what is one of the better fields.
Yeah.
Because, it was the one that was always taken care of more, so it's a tough thing.
What else?
That's it.
Okay. We'll have to see what.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for coming, John.
All right.
And again, and tell your people how appreciative we are of the hard work that they do, because we from visitors that come to our, to the facilities that, that they take care of, we always get compliments on the appearance of the building and on the look of it, both outside and inside. So I think that's a credit to your people, and please, express our gratitude for their hard work to do that.
Well, I will do that, and they would appreciate it the most if we could get
Yeah, thank you is
a
easy.
little help.
Remember, your manager, not a cheerleader.
Yeah. So, I know you're looking for us to help, but you're doing a hell of a job.
All right. Thank you. And
Thanks,
2
John.
weeks he gets a thank you.
Yes, we'll let you know. Mark will, yeah.
All right, great.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, John.
Now,
I
do
don't
you
know how
get
he does
lunch
it.
now? Is that the deal?
Well, we were going to do the Cape Cod Commission at noon, and then that should probably take an hour, and then between 1 and 1:30, you'd have time, and then it's kind of Maggie and I, so you'd have some time to...
I actually brought my
To get-
sandwich today.
My recollection is that they are not asking for any money out of our end this year.
No,
Is that correct?
I can make it.
Cape Cod Commission, I will have to look. I don't believe so.
Because it was last year was the last year that they were asking
No,
for
they're
money
good.
out of our end.
They hit them. They'll hit them.
Are they factoring in
When they do
the money that they
Nothing
put
from us.
Okay, what about the EDC?
They do have the 300,000 from the, wait a minute, hold on.
You want to go on the scale. I can tell by my clothes. I'm like, oh,
They have 340 from license plate grants.
Okay, so that,
my sister.
okay.
I think that's the second year of the,
Yeah, okay, but that was something that we
have envisioned.
envisioned, and it's no longer, the license plate money is no longer appearing in our budget,
It's not in our budget, no.
so.
But the one, if you give them 340, you don't have a whole lot to play with. This says 340.
I mean, it's 60 with ours, right? If we get 400,000 is what we usually see, we usually used to see in the EDC.
I don't know where you got the 60 bill, I'm not sure where, I'm not
Just
following
put
you
them
on
on
the
the
60.
plate there.
I'm not
You're like
following
a
you on the
truffle?
60. I'm not following you on the 60.
If we were using $400,000 as a figure of merit for the EDC license plate money budget
Yeah,
in time past, if
440 actually.
Yeah,
440.
440, yeah, 40,000 went to advertising,
Yep.
and 400,000 went for their grant program.
Yeah.
When they agreed to put the 340 directly over to the Cape Cod Commission, that left them $60,000.
About 60, yeah,
That's what I'm
that's
saying.
right.
But, so the 60,000 still appears in our budget, right?
No.
No,
It's all on
No,
the Cape Cod Commission?
everything's,
no,
We
it's
took out
theirs.
the EDC budget and we're doing that differently. Remember what
Because it's already
basically,
been appropriated.
yeah, they're gonna come in for 2012 though. They're gonna come in and give you a plan on what they plan on doing,
Right.
which is
Because
what they
there's
just
no
did, and then you'll approve it.
Okay.
So it's not going over to the assembly at all, any part of it.
Right, because
So
There's no budget.
Okay, but how do we handle the money that they do get? What is the apparent source of that money?
state.
When you say they, you mean the EDC?
When we agreed and supported the transfer of money from the EDC to the Cape Cod Commission program, that 3-year program.
Yeah.
Okay. They still run their grant program
Yep.
for the remaining 60,000.
Right.
Okay.
Remember Felicia and Dave were just in
Yeah.
a few weeks ago. That's how we do it. They come to
They
you
come
and
in
say, commissioners, can you
Here's a
approve
recommendation.
the expenditure of this money? You guys say yes, that's all there is to it.
So there's no budget issue. The money comes in from the state and into an account.
Yep.
And then,
Okay.
but the money then is in an account that does not have to be appropriated by the county.
All right.
So the
It
EDC,
doesn't have to be appropriated by the assembly.
I mean by the
By the
It does
assembly.
have to be
So
essentially.
what happens is,
Yes.
we vote where the money goes, and
Yes.
it goes from that account to whatever we say.
Yeah.
If it's to the 340, it goes to the commission. If it's for grants, it goes to the grantees based on our vote.
Yes.
But it's all in one pot.
Right, and
No, I get
Yeah.
that, but I want to make it clear to people when they're looking at that particular allocation, is that the money was given to Barnstable County from the license plate money without
It was given to the county commissioners.
Correct.
to the
That's
county
the
commissioners.
reason, yep.
And within that authority, that's the reason why we elected to do this particular distribution.
right. For economic development, it was
Yes,
done
yes,
for
okay.
economic
So
development.
that people might ask the question, because in time past it did appear as a budget item, and it no longer, it should be clear to people as to, we are applying our authority with regard to this particular funding source. Now, for the money that is over and above, if we collect more money than the 400,000, that is still in an account that has been identified as a contribution from the license plate fund, which is under our control as county commissioners.
Yes, it's in the license plate fund.
Right.
And typically
It
what
is not a
happens is
reserve.
at the,
No, it's not a resource.
It is a license plate fund.
it's the license plate fund, and what'll happen is at the end of the year, just like it happened this year, we look at how much is in there, communicate that to Dave Willard and Felicia Penn, and come to some agreement as to how much we'll go forward with for the next fiscal year in terms of expenditures.
Now, there's one other item that we have used license plate money for in the past, and that has to do with the Workforce Investment Board. We do pay for the lease, or make a contribution to the lease in Orleans, and that is something,
$25,000.
yeah, $25,000. In some years, I believe it's come out of license plate money,
Some years it has, and some years it's come out of the county funds.
come out of the county
And I,
funds.
to
But
tell
in
you the
any
truth, I
case,
don't remember what we
that
did
is
this
an
year.
important, visible contribution that the county makes to, let's say, to supporting job creation. And I want to make sure that, in this change, that we continue to support that, that important source of revenue for the Workforce Board.
I also, rest assured, don't worry about it, but the other thing is, like last year, we did the maintenance of the rest area through the
License?
license.
That revenue source thing, you had an item.
Not
on there.
all of it.
Yeah,
though.
and
The
if,
receipts from the license, from the maintenance of the rest area?
From the license plate.
I was going to ask you a question about that, because
Actually, let me clarify. It was for the Workforce Investment Board, $15,000 this year,
Right.
and it's in county money. It's not in license
It's
plate
county.
money.
okay. In talking to people, even on the EDC, they've come to see that, since that money was appropriated to the commissioners, we don't have to go to the assembly to have it appropriated again. We decide on it. That's the
we
reason.
never went to the assembly to have it appropriated.
Well, the assembly.
2 years ago you did.
Yeah.
Yes, we did. We went every year
It was part
before
of the
that
budget.
too.
This was
the first time.
The fiscal 11 is the first time
That they didn't have
that
any
they have not
purview.
received it as part of the budget.
And many people felt that that would have naturally gone into the Cape Cod Commission because of the because in their act of the economic development, but because the Cape Cod Commission.
Excuse me.
Was not- I'm not
Pat and I
saying-
were there at the beginning of this. It was never intended that it go to the Cape Cod Commission. It was always intended that...
Bill, I'm not arguing with you. I'm saying it has been commented on that people from the Economic Development council, to me, that had the commission been actively pursuing their economic development strategies, that this would have normally probably rolled into that, and the EDC might not have even been created because it was sort of a response to the lack thereof from the commission.
Sheila, I'm happy to tell you that you're absolutely right.
Yeah, thank you, Phil. That's, if you had let me finish, that's what all I was saying.
Okay, because
Thank you.
in the beginning of all of this, one of the questions was that since the economic development is mentioned in the Cape Cod Commission Act, and they were not doing it,
RPP.
RPP, in order to salvage a portion of the license plate money,
Right.
I was chair of economic affairs with the Assembly. In order to save that piece, we
Created the EDC.
created the successor of the EDC, because it was an EDC,
Right.
only the then head of the EDC, rang the doorbell with his elbows over at the Chamber of Commerce.
I understand. I remember that story. Right. All right, just
there you go.
making
Okay.
passing comments here.
So-
Didn't mean to start.
Now what are we gonna do?
Well, at noon, the commission, we have the
Okay, I will
commission.
Cape
Yes,
Cod
indeed.
Commission.
So do we have a 10-minute
10
recess?
minute break.
Recess for 10 minutes, you
I
can
would
sign
propose we-
stuff.
Oh yeah, I'll
Oh, yeah,
sign.
let's sign
I'll
this
keep
stuff.
signing.
And let's have a truffle while we sign.
Yeah, there you go. They're right there. Anybody who wants them.
Oh, and while we're signing things, there's one thing I want to bring up.
This is going to be the end.
One of my constituents mentioned this to me, and I think we need to
You're in or out?
schedule a time to talk about it.
Okay.
Is that you've got there's a question of foster children who are who are part of who are being taken care of by people, and I think our personnel policy doesn't allow for them to be considered as family members for purposes of family leave, and I think that that's something that we should look at because it's tough enough to get foster parents, but if there's an extra impediment that if someone who works for us decides to make themselves available to be foster parents, when that kid goes into the house, they're the same as any other kid, in the house. And I think that if we're promoting a social justice agenda, I think that's something that we ought to think about supporting. So I'd like to ask you to Maggie isn't here, but perhaps Maggie could give us a report on the reasons why foster children are not included as part of the family.
Well, maybe, Bill, let me turn that around. You should make it more clear as to what it is you're requesting our personnel policies to do. Rather than reporting on a negative, why don't you suggest what the positive might be?
The positive would, in my opinion, would be that if you have a sick kid at home, you could take. I think does the policy allow you to take sick time?
And that wouldn't change. I don't see why that would be any
Yes,
different.
that's right.
Well,
That's why I'm not sure.
given the
that-
impression.
Next week I'll bring a big
The
ball.
reason I'm bringing the reason I'm asking to look at it is that the person who brought it up said that she wasn't able to use the illness of a foster child as reasons to support the family leave. Now, if that's not true, then I think that that settles the matter. But if it is true, I think we ought to visit that. I know that the experience that one of my daughters had in having a foster child in the house was that foster child became, for all intents and purposes, a member of the household, a child within that household. She certainly had the responsibility of a lot of oversight, and really, from the conversations we've had with people who run the foster child programs, it's pretty tough to get people to step up to be foster parents.
So this is a Family Medical Leave Act question.
I guess it
That's
is.
what
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Well,
Yeah.
it's covered under the Family Medical Leave Act.
I don't know the answer to that.
And I don't-
No, but I
would
mean,
tell
it
you,
should be covered.
Yeah, well,
under
that's my
we
point.
follow what the federal requires us to follow.
Okay, well, I'd like a clarification on that as to whether or not A, that there's an absolute prohibition against it.
No, you can always do more, I would say. Usually in federal labor law, you can always do more.
Well, I just like, and I think we should talk about it, but I'd like us to consider that if we have employees that that have foster children or considering it, that there would not be an impediment from our end that would not allow that child to be considered as part of the household. So if we could get an understanding of what the federal law limitations are, I think, in my opinion, we could make a judgment as to whether or not we could examine whether we want to expand it or just be satisfied with
Right,
the way
that's the
things are.
question.
Okay. Is that,
Good.
okay.
Yeah. I was going to look it up.
Oh, silly me, forgetting all of your expertise.
We're
in
all
this.
connected here. Actually, such a long act, but I've had to navigate it many times, so.
But you understand what,
Oh,
I would be surprised if it's an exclusion, but
A foster child?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I mean, you have a legal obligation to that child. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't get a foster child unless you sign papers.
Oh, yeah, DSS
So,
is
I would
directly
think,
involved, and they do all kinds of checks.
But I
with it.
don't know it for a fact.
But anyway, I think, I would like to know, and because I thought that the request was a reasonable one, based upon, how tough it is to get people to step up to do it. And I know all the difficulties my daughter had when she had Jennifer period of time. So, anyway, so if you could give us a report on that, that would be great. And then after we get the report, perhaps we could deliberate whether or not we want to, what we would like to do as a body to support, if a change needs to be made in personnel policies, whether or not we are inclined to support that.
2 minutes?